Hey YouTube, it's about Lip It Out Joe with legendary drops. Expedition 33 just shattered the narrative. Let's get right into it, shall we? Hit it.
3 days, you know there is a boardroom full of executives that are sitting around scratching their head, screaming for their secretary to explain this to them in Fortnite terms. Reverence. That was the first word that came to mind when I sat down to make this video. Expedition 33 is breathtaking.
Clair Obscur has been one of those games that just came out and it's just, bro, it's taking over the internet by storm, right? This is everybody, their mother, their father, their grandparents are talking about this game. You feel me? This game is insane.
It is a game that commands respect
100%.
On every single level and deserves every bit of praise that it's gotten. It is one of the best examples of what today's developers are capable of, what games are capable of, how far they can reach, the value that they can deliver, how they can be far more than simple entertainment.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is incredibly frustrating because it paints a very clear contrast between it and how shallow and utterly vapid the rest of this industry has become.
Oh, yeah.
Games like Expedition 33 are what we deserve, but are rarely given. And it's not for a lack of talent. We know that because these are former Ubisoft developers making a game that we would never see from Ubisoft.
No, and to be fair, I think, if I'm not wrong, on X or on Twitter or anywhere, like even on Reddit, you would see, I think it's almost every major game studio has congratulated them already. Like they already had, like, I think they sold 1 million copies. I'm not sure if it's in the first day or in the first 3 days, which is already insane. But one of the few companies that did not, like, you know, congratulate them or thank them was Ubisoft. I don't think they've actually, you know, said anything. They've just been dead quiet.
Or any major publisher for that matter. Today, I want to talk about the explosive popularity of Expedition 33, how it's already broken records, my experience playing it, and, man, you know, it really must burn to be absolutely destroyed by the very people you let go.
Oh, no, absolutely.
But before that, if you want to be a part of the video, Expedition 33 was one of my most anticipated games since its reveal. The turn-based combat looked like a true iteration or evolution on JRPGs that we've seen over the years.
And just for context, I've not played the game, and yet I think I've watched the entire game through different people's playthroughs, and I've seen like the secret bosses and everything. So I'm aware of the story and what happens in the game. So I'm already spoiled for the game, right? So if there are spoilers in the video and you've not played the game, I highly recommend you play the game and then come back and then watch the original video, to be fair, because it is an experience. It really is.
Idea of using quick time events, active dodge, and pairing mechanics in combat seemed like a fresh idea. It had an all-star cast of voice actors. The premise of the game story, where a celestial paintress is painting a descending number, killing all those older than the age of 33, was genuinely different, and the art style was captivating. Actually, back at the start of last month, I had posted on Twitter saying, I don't know why, but I have an oddly good feeling about Expedition 33. My favorite games are the ones that are coming out of left field from unheard of and unproven developers. I'm genuinely hoping it's one of them.
And the reason why they're coming from unheard of, I don't think it's accurate to say they're unproven. Like, to be fair, if you're already part of Ubisoft, you're part of like big gaming companies, you've already had to prove your repertoire, you already had to prove your capability to be part of the team. It's just that some of the people who are working for those companies didn't agree with the bureaucracy and didn't agree with, you know, the systems in place that kept killing creativity. So they just walked out, created their own studios, and you're seeing incredible games coming out of studios that aren't part of the mainstream. Like, there were mainstream companies, but then since they became so shackled in the way they could make games, which are inherently a creative process, a lot of people didn't like it. A lot of artists, a lot of creative experts just said, you know what, screw it. We'll just leave, we'll create our own company, and we'll do it better than them. And to be fair, that's what's happening nowadays. I think the company behind Clair Obscur was Sandfall Interactive, which are all if I'm not wrong, all of them are ex-Ubisoft, if I'm not wrong. It's a team of like, what, 30 or 33, which is an incredibly small team for what they were able to accomplish.
No, just how right I would be. Clair Obscur Expedition 33 launched to 60,000 concurrent players on Steam, selling over 500,000 copies in its first 24 hours.
Yeah.
It had then surpassed that days later, doubling that number to 121,000 concurrent players on Steam and reaching 1 million copies sold in just 3 days.
It was 3 days,
Hell,
okay.
the game sold out of physical copies on Amazon.
I would love to get my hands on a physical copy. If it's one of those things where I don't want a digital download, I want to get my hands on a physical copy.
And in stores in Australia. For a narrative-driven turn-based RPG that isn't named...
And this is the thing, right? If you just look at the world they were able to create, it's based on Unreal Engine 5, a lot more realistic. And of course, I'm not, going along the line that all games have to look realistic to be fun to play. But this artistic direction works for them. Because this game, at its core, is art and music. It's purely creative. And I think it works so well with a realistic environment. It feels like a dreamscape because, quite frankly, the context of the game is it's a painting, so it has to look a certain kind of way. But the aesthetic is truly French, and I think just by playing the game, you'll notice so many French aspects in the game that you're like, okay, well, I didn't have to question why this isn't a French game. Obviously, fair enough.
Persona, coming from a studio that's releasing its very first game, this is nigh unheard of, my friends. The game released to near universal praise among critics. It is simply too good for anybody to ignore.
And I'm sorry for pausing. It's an important fact to recognize. This is not a AAA game. This is similar to a JRPG with different mechanics, but it's not open world either. It's very much linear progression, but it's how do I say it? It's not exactly open world, but it's not necessarily like story point to story point to story point either. You do have control of some essence to where you want to go in the story, but it's more along the lines of the plot is still going to go down this road, and you get to make critical decisions along the way, which affect the ending, which is super.
Reaching
a
91 on OpenCritic with a 100% player rating, and a 92 on Metacritic with a 9.7 player rating. The game is so popular among players that it now holds a world record. Paul Tossi of Forbes wrote an article titled, "Players Just Ensured Claire Obscure Expedition 33's record can't be touched." He writes...
I mean, it's up for debate. That's up for debate. I feel like every time there's a game that actually does change it doesn't change, but actually disturbs the status quo, I feel like it's always going to be the case, of course.
I wrote an article over the weekend that confirmed that Claire Obscure Expedition 33, the RPG from first-time developer Sandfall, was in fact the highest user-scored game in Metacritic history. Now, players have caught wind of that. Some pushed back on this, saying it was early, and this is just based on a few hundred reviews playing it super early. Well, people have been playing it over the course of the weekend, and there are now 600% more reviews in, up to 3,300, and the score has actually increased to a 9.7 out of 10 from a 9.6 previously. I've said that it's possible that scores fall in time, but what has happened here cemented Expedition 33's title as one of the highest scored games on this platform. Nothing else is close or will get close anytime soon.
Which is crazy.
These thousands of reviews mean that of the top 100 plus best scored games on Metacritic's list, it's already passed many of them in total scores. And again, it's not a close competition. I've only been able to find one 9.3 at all, The Witcher 3's Blood and Wine DLC.
Okay, to be fair, it deserves that score, to be fair. If you've played The Witcher 3 and the DLC, yes, it deserves the score, yes.
Every other historic game that you have heard of is somewhere between an 8.9 and 9.2.
I'm surprised I can see why Elden Ring would have scored less just because of, I think, the overall reviewers just didn't like the difficulty curve. But I'm willing to bet from how much I've seen the game and I've seen through like Claire Obscura, I still think in terms of replayability, I still think Elden Ring edges it out. In terms of story, Claire Obscura, even then. I think Claire Obscura does a much better way of actually putting subtle hints to how the story progresses, while Elden Ring doesn't even try to tell you the story at all and needs you to piece together different parts of it to connect the web. Like there's so many different people there's so many different lore videos on like Elden Ring. For example, VatiVidya, for example, just does like incredible breakdowns. But a lot of the lore is hidden behind items, and you have to read item descriptions to even start piecing together where the lore is. So you're just thrown into a world and not given an explanation. While Expedition 33 is lore driven, so I think it does get some benefits, but I'm still going to edge it out to Elden Ring as the overall better game. But I think for a more casual, more mainstream audience, Expedition 33 would take the cake. I could understand that.
Yes, that one. Yes, that one too. Check any one you like.
What?
This, my friends, is a flawless victory. Plain and simple. It's the kind of game that should go on to sell tens of millions of copies. Honestly, it's the game that you hope does.
And that's true, because I think it is true to what's core of a gaming in general, or it's true to what I think gaming should be about, which is the gaming experience. If you walk away from a game feeling enriched, or at least not just about fun, but at least spending your time in something that you still walk away from not just happy, but also, now I want to say as a changed person, or like, oh my god, it made me suit up and become like a CEO or something. Not that far, but something that genuinely has an impact on your life. And I think that's what gaming should be about, because it's still art in a different format. I think it's the most interactive form of the arts compared to like music, compared to TV shows, compared to movies. Games are one of the few mediums of art where you are able to interact with the game, which is the art. And I think that's just something unique. It's unique to it in its own domain, and it stands out amongst the other art forms, in my opinion.
When you play it, you want everybody else to play it. And if it doesn't become the most popular game ever, it feels like it's a slight against you.
Yeah.
Because it is. We deserve this game. We deserve more games like this. And Sandfall, with a team of a mere 30 ex-Ubisoft developers, deserves all of its recognition, success, and more.
Yeah.
While playing Expedition 33, I had an epiphany of sorts. I came to the conclusion that the games industry is desperately clinging to a coloring book, tracing over the same tired outlines, filling in old shapes with new colors, terrified to stray beyond what has already been done.
The reality is, I don't think it is a two-part problem, isn't it? Because I don't think anyone wants to take risks in creating new games that might just not work out, versus using the same cookie cutter formula so that you could still make money. This is like the whole argument of, I think Pirate Software had like a really good example for this, or an analogy for this, because I think he was working on the StarCraft game at Blizzard, and they made the game, they playtested the game, they released the game, but at the same time, World of Warcraft had like a mount that they released, and if I'm not wrong, that single mount made more money than the StarCraft game.
Sadness, dude. I worked 2 years of overtime straight on StarCraft 2, Wings of Liberty. StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty made less money than the horse, the first Sparkle Pony horse in World of Warcraft. A $15 microtransaction horse made more money than StarCraft 2. That's it. That's the whole meme, dude. You're wondering why these companies do microtransactions? Because dipshits keep buying all of them.
So it was just like, well, I mean, bro, I'm not gonna lie. If anyone was like a Blizzard executive looking at that just for the sake of business and looking at money, being like, well, either I make more mounts and make more money than put an investment into StarCraft, or at least that game in that particular moment in time, and just not make as much money. Like, it is what it is, man. Like, the moment I heard that story, I was like, okay, this is the inevitable future where we're going to end up, unfortunately. Where companies, if they're looking at moves to make the best amount of money, is not going to push the industry forward to where it should be so that players actually feel like playing new games. Because if players get bored of the same formula that, Blizzard is using for these new games, or it's not just Blizzard, it's the overall industry, people aren't going to be playing as many games. It's not a surprise that as much as the new games coming out, you still have a large amount of people, especially on Steam, playing older backlogs of games that they want to clear out, and then looking for like really specific gaming experiences. When Elden Ring came out, great example. GTA 5 came out, great example. Clair Obscura came out, is currently a good example. And then when GTA 6 comes out, or at least when it comes out in 2026, it's the same thing. People are no longer looking for games you can just spend money and then just wild time away, as much as they want experiences like, oh my god, I actually enjoyed that game. You feel me? So it's a harder thing for, I think, game companies to kind of wrap their minds about. And I think it's a good thing that creative expression and companies that can make good games are formed by developers who are passionate about the games they make. Because if they're not passionate, it speaks to the games they make, yo. It is what it is.
Nobody dares to treat games like a blank canvas, to make a mess, to break
that's the joke, because it's the pun intended, because it's a blank canvas. So because Clair Obscura happens on a canvas, it's the
frame to let their imagination spill out and ruin the floor. But where the rest of the industry is coloring inside the lines, Expedition 33 tears the canvas off the wall.
Pun intended again.
Smears their hands in the paint and throws themselves into their work. They let it bleed, they let it burn, they let it scream. They didn't just make a game, they made something alive. I almost don't even know where to even start describing this game or its genius. While Expedition 33 definitely takes inspiration, where to even start describing this game or its genius. While Expedition...
Fun fact, not related to the reaction. There is a reason why that trash can is interactive. To anyone playing the game, please do.
33 definitely takes inspiration from a wide variety of games. That's as far as it goes. It's inspiration with iteration, never imitation. You catch flashes of the UI taking cues from Persona, the combat adapting ideas from Legend of Dragoon or Final Fantasy VIII,
right.
The mournful, hopeless world whispering shades of Final Fantasy X, and the monster design tipping its hat to Dark Souls.
Yep.
But everything here is unmistakably its own.
Because it feels genuine. I think in its approach to try and not imitate, it has to take its cues from other games it's trying to take inspiration from, but it ends up with a product that just isn't anything you would have seen in those other games, but still stands unique enough that you kind of have to respect it. To be like, yeah, it's a unique creation of this game, and hats off to that.
Right out of the gate, the game grips you with its music, its atmosphere, its art, and its writing. A world wrapped in flight.
Fair enough. The writing on this is spectacular. Whoever was script writing, it's not even script. Whoever is like writing the lines for the overall game script, kudos. Like, they need to be in Hollywood. They need to be making blockbuster movies, bro.
Desperation. Most of us come into Expedition 33 already knowing the premise: a world shattered by a calamity, a celestial paintress that is marking humanity's final days by painting a number, and a desperate expedition that is trying to break the cycle. But Sandfall didn't just build a premise, they made it a feeling, and they drive it into you. You walk the streets of Lumiere, you talk to its people, you are given control of somebody heading to their gommage, a final farewell. You walk them down to the pier, watching as the paintress calls their number and paints their death into this world. You hear the voices of the townspeople, see the hollowness in their eyes, feel the ache in their words. And for the first time in a long time, a game makes you feel the stakes, how important yet futile your journey feels, how small and desperate these lives are, how this world is quietly fading before your eyes. You can feel this beautiful, aching world. What impressed me most about Expedition 33 is its revival of subtlety and nuance in an industry that has been obsessed.
Oh, thank God. Oh, you know what? Now that I think about it, thank God. Is because it is exhausting when you get into some games and they just have to be like, well, you should probably go down this road, and then you get to realize it's part of the plot. Oh, by the way, go right here, down this road, down this route. It's okay, guys. It is exhausting when the game tells you word for word what you got to do. Okay, it is. You miss subtlety in games. You miss the idea that, oh, by the way, it just nudges your curiosity, and then the idea that you went out of your own accord to go and do something has a certain level of satisfaction. Even if the game is pushing you to do it slightly from a different angle, it's still satisfying when you get to do it yourself. You feel me?
With appealing to the widest audience possible, executives chasing infinite growth, games have been stripped of any ambiguity.
Yeah.
Modern storytelling assumes that the player must...
To be fair, Elden Ring takes this and then blows it up to the extreme of it's extremely ambiguous because you don't know the entirety of the plot even if you wanted to. It's like, unless you study what's in the game, good luck figuring out the plot. But taking the same parallel, I wouldn't really say JRPGs have bad mechanics as it does feel like I think those mechanics should obviously be revised as you're going through different gaming generations, you do want different revisions of those same styles. You feel me?
Must be handheld through every story beat, every emotion, every idea in case they might get confused and stop buying their games. But Sandfall respects its audience. They don't feel like they need to spell everything out. They don't insult you with constant on-the-nose exposition. They let you live in their world, absorb its meaning, piece together its mysteries. Characters reveal themselves through actions and subtext rather...
The reason I understand why he's saying this as well, because it's obvious in some games where it's like, oh my God, you are the good guy. Oh my God, he is the bad guy. Here is the plot. You feel sad for him. But plot mean good guy, meet bad guy. Now you beat bad guy. You win. Game over. It's like... The reason why and here's the thing, I didn't even play the game. I watched people play the game. And I'm like, bro, I want to play the game. Is the story lies to you in certain aspects. It's like the story in general, in a good way. It's like it misdirects your trust at what's happening in the world. And when you realize the grand scheme of things, you're like, oh my God, what have we done? It's just, if you haven't played the game, play the game. I will rave about it for hours, but it's everything good with gaming right now. It is what it is.
Other than bullet points, and nothing is predictable. I've been floored countless times by this game's narrative, hands in the air yelling absolute cinema.
Yep.
There is so little revealed, yet so much at the exact same time. You are given the space to truly know these characters, but not a single one of them really fits cleanly into an archetype. They are complex, contradictory, messy, human in a way that very few games ever achieve. Every member of your party carries the same trauma of the world that they're living in, but they wear it differently. And the moment that you think you have somebody figured out, the page turns and you see a side of them that you hadn't before. And it's all delivered by an all-star voice cast. You wander a world littered with the remnants of the expeditions that came before.
I do gotta mention it because it's a side point. It also helps that every character is hot, honestly, in my opinion. It's just, I obviously understand it's for the story and plot point that they all have to be young, but at the same time, they're all hot. It is what it is.
Thousands of bodies marking your path. For those who come after, we continue. It's not just a slogan of this world, it's a lived, brutal truth. You're constantly reminded about how important your mission is and how hopeless it all feels. Twists, turns, cliffhangers. The game dares you to keep going, dares you to understand more. Even reality itself bends as black and white dream sequences cut through the world, boxed by vertical pillar box lines, stripping away any comfort, any warmth.
And I'll be honest, it looks like an old, like either French or like English movie, and it just adds so much character to the game. Because I don't even know if I should say that. There are sequences where it's just black and white with very minimal dialogue, but it speaks so much. Like the subtlety, silence can be deafening. And I think this game makes so much good use out of it.
Moments don't just feel different, they feel wrong, like they exist outside of time itself, and that deliberate discomfort sinks into you.
Yeah. Because it tells you something feels off without telling you that something feels off. You come to the conclusion yourself.
Soundscape and the world design are utterly breathtaking. I cannot count how many times I have stopped dead in my tracks, panned the camera around slowly, and just stared. Because the scene before me looked like it was a painting that deserved to be hung in a gallery. Expedition 33 is built around music and art at every single level, from skill names to weapons to the names of towns themselves. It's a world that doesn't push you forward. It begs you to...
It's obviously the question of like, why do you think this is a French game? Gee, baguette for a weapon. Huh. It's just...
Names of towns themselves.
My Mr. Mime right here.
It's a world that doesn't push you forward. It begs you to stop, to look, to feel, to listen. It's visibly distinct, it's audibly distinct, yet eerily familiar at the exact same time. And that mixture of mystery and recognition is exactly what keeps you rooted in place. Well, at least until the gameplay rips you off your feet.
Omelette du fromage.
As a fan of turn-based games, 3 of my favorite games of all time are Grandia 2, Final Fantasy VIII, and Legend of Dragoon. I have never seen a game revolutionize turn-based combat like this before. I'll be honest,
I've not played the game. I've only seen gameplay, but I can imagine playing like this. It just has to feel good, bro.
Afraid. When I had heard about the dodge, parry, and quick time event mechanics, I thought it was just going to be gimmicks. But they're not gimmicks. They're the solution. Turn-based combat has struggled to stay relevant in the modern age. Part of that is due to executives not wanting to fund these type of games, but the other part of it is that players today, including myself, just don't really have the patience like we once did. And while some games have been successful, and people obviously still want it, there needs to be an evolution. That's why we've seen auto battle systems dominate the genre, reducing what used to be thoughtful, tactical gameplay into passive, gacha-like gameplay loops. Expedition 33 refuses to...
I feel like it's a shot at Fate Grand Order, but as someone who plays Fate Grand Order, I'm not denying it. He's not wrong. Because, to be fair, I think the only reason I'm playing Fate right now is for the plot. It's actually for how the story progresses in the Lost Belts. It's the only reason I'm still playing the game. But regardless, yeah, if you're going to farm, especially in like gacha games, it is a repetitive process. It is what it is. Even Arknights, for example.
Happen. Instead, it rewards players for staying engaged. Dodging at the right time will grant you action points or other buffs depending on the pictos that you have. Parrying will boost your damage. Hitting time prompts will amplify your attacks. These mechanics don't feel bolted on. They feel natural, inevitable, earned. It's the evolution of turn-based combat that I've been waiting for since Final Fantasy VIII, a true, seamless fusion of action and strategy that keeps you locked in
Did he just heat? Okay.
Every second without betraying the roots of this genre.
Fair enough.
Expedition 33 isn't just a great game. I think it's a quiet rebellion, a reminder of everything that this industry could be and everything it has chosen not to be. It's proof that we just need someone, somewhere to care enough to create something real. Something.
Did he just suck her off? Hey, yo. Excusez-moi.
Something beautiful. Something that dares to reach beyond the safe, dead outlines of what's already been done before.
Oh, okay.
One of the things that really stood out to me and the game isn't getting enough appreciation for is its return to unique characters. It's something that we used to have in a lot of JRPGs, but a lot of these games have kind of gotten away from it.
True.
Made it where all these characters can kind of just, they're just Lego sets essentially.
They amalgamate into like one random person.
You can build them however you want.
Yeah, I mean,
they all
sure.
can have the exact same skills, but each character in Expedition 33 is remarkably unique from the next one. Luna has her elemental stains.
This is actually interesting because I think I've heard people say about this because it's a very interesting pairing system in combat. So certain people pair well with certain people in combat. So I'm guessing it could get really interesting and really annoying very quickly.
L has her stances. CL has a mix of both of them, and then all of these characters can work dynamically with one another to set up one another for different attacks and combos and things like that. There's a lot of genius in that. But we've been deprived of that over the last few years because, well, a lot of these companies just don't trust the player. I've been talking about it recently because I saw somebody post, they made a comparison between Skyrim and Oblivion. They showed about how much content had been removed from Oblivion to Skyrim. A lot of customization, a lot of depth, and the reason why is because it's all about accessibility. These studios, these publishers, they see that as a way for them to be able to reach wider audiences. They, instead of wanting to add value or do anything unique, they instead want to treat their audience like they drank half a can of paint thinner when they were a kid.
Well, I mean it's a shot in the dark, but he's not wrong. That's fair because I think you see the complexity of games has been decreasing over a period of time. I feel like the games of the past just are a different breed compared to what we have today. It just doesn't feel as challenging, it doesn't feel as dynamic, and it doesn't feel like a game anymore. It just feels like regurgitated slop that's been there for the past 10, 15 years. You feel me? There are unique games that come out every year, of course. But that being said, the vast majority from these big game studios, not much different.
So we see that in the writing, in the world design, and it's all watered down towards that goal. Expedition 33 subverts that, along with a lot of other developers I've seen recently as well. But, while playing this game, I get this overwhelming feeling of respect. Respect for the players, respect for themselves as developers, for the medium, for the game, and much of that respect has been lost within this industry.
True.
And that's why players are upset. That's why these games feel hollow in the end, because you have to respect all of it. Otherwise, what's the point? Expedition 33 feels like a miracle at this point in this industry.
Now, I wouldn't call it a miracle as much as I think something like Expedition 33 would have been inevitable. I think when you have an industry that no longer prioritizes creativity, it was only a matter of time where people who are inherently creative, frustrated with the status quo, decide to just take matters into their own hands, leave, and then try to make something out of it. Was there a guarantee that this effort would have been successful? I think we shouldn't underestimate pettiness and we shouldn't underestimate spite. Because I think at the end of the day, if you're leaving a company and you want to start your own company and you want to do something better than what that older company allowed you to do, you better be coming with your A game saying, I am better off by myself than what work I could have done under you. So fair enough. If it is coming from a place of like, we need to get better at it and we need to prove it could be done, then I think it is not only an act of rebellion, it's an act of saying, regardless of the status quo, we're still going to make great games. And people are still going to enjoy playing those great games. And what they've proven is there's an appetite for great games. And companies and their shareholders and stakeholders have to look at that and they realize with that much money being made, they can't ignore that market anymore. So I think overall, it's a net positive for the industry. And yes, they're disruptive, but I wouldn't call it a miracle. I think it was inevitable something like that should have happened.
not a
In
product.
my opinion, it should have happened a long time ago, but at least it's happening now.
Product. And it's a work of art. It's a bleeding, breathing work of
It
art,
feels
a
alive.
testament to what games can actually be. And at the same time, like I had said before, it's exposing just how little we're given from the rest of the industry. You know, I noticed that a lot of game developers and a lot of studios reached out to Sandfall to congratulate them on the success of Expedition 33.
Oh.
I did not see Ubisoft.
Oh, okay, so
though.
it wasn't just okay. Fair enough. I was wondering. I was like, well, did they? No, it's because typically is one of those things where you see game devs going off and like basically just congratulating new studio for doing the first major release. It's similar to what happened to No Man's Sky a few years back, and then they flopped and then they had to come back. But regardless, it's interesting for Ubisoft because it's like that almost every I think it's everyone in Sandfall Entertainment, the 33 people team, are all ex Ubisoft. So I was curious looking through. I was like, well, are there any Ubisoft executives or any people here? No one was there. Yeah.
Maybe that's because they're under new management.
Or it's because they don't like looking in the mirror and coming to that realization, hey, we screwed up.
When I sit back and think about it, I just genuinely don't think this is the kind of game that we would see the industry even dare to try to make anymore. You have a dark, emotionally charged story that doesn't lean into forced humor to be able to soften its blows. It's not like Dragon Age the Veilguard where you're going to fight a dragon, one of the characters starts talking about a book they like, and Tosh intervenes to tell them that the book is probably about sex, doubling down again to say, I bet it's about sex.
Hey, it's got me laughing. I suppose that's kind of the situation we're in. But at the same time, that's a depressing state of affairs, I feel like. It is what it is.
Wow. So funny. Genius writing.
Writing 10. It's like, oh my god, we gotta throw in a funny joke. Sex book. I mean, it's...
Really? Or maybe how about that one time where you go to the infested docks and all the people are dead and one of the characters chimes in like it's a Scooby-Doo investigation saying, it's quiet. Too quiet. Mature rated game, by the way. When Expedition 33
What?
uses humor, it's well delivered and with nuance. I remember there was a scene where I was reuniting with CL. Gustav prepares to trauma dump over what happened at the beach. They zoom in on his face. The tone shifts. Dramatic music starts playing. And one of the other characters turns and essentially says, not now, Gustav. And the music cuts out. It's unexpected but well-delivered comedy that makes sense for the characters, the world, and the situation. I mean, I
gotta respect it though. I feel like in real life that is actually something. It's like, oh my god, something happened. Not now, Tom. We got real shit to do. We'll trauma dump after we've done this. I think that's something that hey, it's real for doing it because I think I would be laughing out at a situation like that because it feels real.
have conventionally attractive characters in 2020.
Conventionally? Brother, these characters are hot.
5 without a hint of irony, cynicism, or commentary around it. I mean, I think that Luna's proof that they have a feet guy on their team, but...
Brother, absolutely they have a feet guy. If you've played the game or watched playthroughs, they absolutely have a feet guy. I'm not going to say anything else. When you play the game, you'll know.
Outside of that, it feels so vindicating to have...
Well, I mean, they have a feet guy, a gore guy, because someone wore at least, and then there are some other questionable ones.
Exactly what players have been asking for. Aesthetically pleasing, cool-looking characters that are tastefully presented. This is all people...
I'm actually glad that there are... How do you explain? I don't think you can actually easily explain like the general feeling or emotional context for the game. There are parts of it being cosmic horror and there are parts of it being about love, but romance as a part in this game is, I wouldn't call it subdued as much as it takes an undercurrent. It's not like the focus of the game. It doesn't really openly tell you it's about something, but it's about subtlety and knowing. There's certain sections of the game where you know there's subtlety, there's a bit more going on, but the game doesn't put it outright. And I think in a way of it doing things like that makes it even more intimate. You feel me? It feels right in that kind of approach versus games where just things just happen. It's just like, okay, well, I mean, I'm emotionally invested in the character, but I'm kind of in a weird position because I don't know how to feel about this. You feel me? When you play the game, you understand.
People have been asking for, yet game developers and the media have taken it out of context, saying that we are asking for strippers. No. Well,
but to be fair, fan service is a thing in games, and fan service can sell games, It's just that you shouldn't be making games just about fan service. I think that's about the line I would draw there. But I would absolutely say, like, it's like me talking about, like, what, Devil May Cry 5, and then not saying there's fan service in the game. It's like, brother, have you seen Virgil? It's like, bro, there are games where fan service, you do get to enjoy fan service, like, in sections of games, but you probably should enjoy games with the plot, and then you have games with the plot. You feel me? So there are questionable things in games, right? It's like, then again, I can't really be talking about this. It feels like Fate Grand Order, or like Fate in general, is basically fan service that took on the life of a story, and then it's just...
If he couldn't explain it in 30 minutes, why do you think he can explain it in 5 words?
This is funny. Imagine history, but horny.
Gone into a clusterfuck called the Nasuverse. Honestly, there's a great Gigug video on this. You should probably check it out. But regardless, fan service can be good in games if controlled. Right? I still think plot is the biggest driver in a game.
Well, I mean, sometimes, but not all of the time. We have a narrative without forced real-world allegory stapled onto it, without painful exposition, dumping the entire plot and every character's feelings, trauma, and identity into your lap because they think that you're too stupid to figure it out. We have stakes, mystery, gravity, and tragedy all left for players to sort out on their own as the story unfolds.
And I think it helps you find a deeper bond with the character because you get to process the emotions they're going through at the same time as that information is either unveiled to them or as they're dealing with it as things happen. So I think you not only have a better interaction and understanding and connection with the character, you also feel like the character, it's not only about your relation with the character, but when things happen in the game that affects your character, you really feel more invested in. Like, there are sections of this game where something happens and it pisses you off it's happened, and you'd be like, all right, let's get at it. No. We fighting. It's just...
Holy shit. Let's go ahead and make it a turn-based, Japanese-inspired RPG. The remnants of the genre that have been lost to the passage of time and the vision of C-suite executives that don't believe that it can make money anymore and that players don't even want it. A genre that has essentially been on life support outside of the Atlas games, Octopath Traveler, Atelier series, and a couple of others. Finally, let's tie a bow on the entire thing. Make the game with just over 30 developers in under 5 years and sell it for $50. No, wait, scratch that. Let's put it on sale for 10% off before the game is even released and during its launch week to make sure that it's a fair price point for players. A low...
And I have to understand, this is coming with the context that Nintendo is charging $90 per game, which I highly I disagree with that context, $80 and $90 games. But for $50 that this game came out, and on top of the fact that this was on it was on Game Pass for free. This has to be the best deal in gaming I've ever seen. Bro, that is just insanity.
Barrier to entry and give those players the opportunity to take a chance instead of feeling like they need to make an investment to play their game.
Right.
By every modern AAA standard, this game should not exist. And
I wouldn't...
Yet here it is, standing taller, reaching farther, hitting harder than almost anything that these AAA studios and publishers have produced.
I wouldn't say that it shouldn't be here, though. I would still say a game like this has a place because of how popular it is and has become. That it's so hardcore, it's so well made, that it breached the niche that it found itself in and it became mainstream. I would not be surprised if, from a mainstream audience point of view, this might be their first JRPG-inspired game they've ever played. I would not be surprised.
It's refreshing, but more than that, it's enraging because it shows just how low the bar has been set by the people that are supposed to be leading this industry. They keep telling themselves the same lie, not only to themselves, but to us as well, that the only way for them to succeed is to play it safe. That bold ideas are too dangerous, that nuance is confusing, that the audience...
It just is insane because it's all it's like set pieces, because it really does take the inspiration of a set and different parts of the game, places you reach and you see, it's bro, it's just so beautiful. It is respect to the artist and respect to the art in general because it just 10 on 10. It looks incredible. The aesthetic is just right. I would call this aesthetic as fuck if I could.
Needs to be handheld, babied, spoon-fed, every emotion.
The way it goes and attacks, honestly, it reminds me of Honkai Star Rail initiating combat. It's basically you strike, there's a glitch, and then you enter combat.
Every plot point, every mechanic.
I can see the Honkai Star Rail influence, and at least in engaging combat.
They're too stupid to figure it out on their own. But this is never about protecting the players. This is about protecting their profits.
This is true.
It's about control. It's about squeezing margins, about turning games into lifeless, frictionless products that can be stamped out, sold, patched, updated, and forgotten. And in doing so, they have crippled themselves.
Yeah.
That's what makes what Sandfall has done that much more satisfying. A studio of 33 developers, mostly Ubisoft refugees, who built Expedition
I like we call them Ubisoft refugees. It's like, you shall find safe haven here, and we shall build a game that rivals our old lords. But what did Macron say? It's French haughtiness. I'm like, I bet, yeah. Oh, sorry, no, it's not. It's French audacity. Like, the audacity on this bait. You feel me? You know what? When the president of your country just goes out and basically says, haha, play this game, you know you won it. You know you won. That's cultural recognition right there, my brothers and sisters, 100%.
On a budget of likely under $50 million.
I would actually say, I have nothing to know about game budgets, but less than 50 million, probably.
In under 5 years, have absolutely smoked Assassin's Creed Shadows on Steam, while being a game that was given away for free on Game Pass, the biggest subscription service in this industry, and they still outperformed it.
Which is actually crazy to think, because I think in terms of art, and I think it was 2025, I'm pretty sure Arcane came out, was it a few months back? Season 2? Regardless, if I'm not wrong, Fortiche, which is also a French company that made Arcane, animated Arcane, art insane, the music insane, and to be fair, the music choices, they got inspiration from different bands and different people, but the Stromae one still sticks with me. And now for video games, you got Sandfall. It's like, hey, to be fair, France has had a great year when it comes to like animation and art, to be fair.
It's
and music as well.
Beautiful. It's justice. Broche, Sandfall CEO and creative director, didn't leave Ubisoft because he couldn't cut it. He left because anyone with any real ambition, anyone who gives a damn, eventually realizes that you cannot create anything real inside of a machine that only knows how to recycle itself.
And I think this is the most important thing. I think it's better to have tried leaving the company, building something, making a game, and then having it fail. Even if it fails, at least you could live life knowing that we took a chance, it didn't work out, no regrets. Because I think the one regret I think people may have, especially in life, is not taking that chance. People often make the argument that you need opportunity to be successful, but most people don't talk about the fact that for an opportunity to be grasped, handled, and executed on properly, you need to be prepared mentally and physically before that happens, and you need to have that capability. Because when that opportunity presents itself, you better be ready. And they were hell ready.
Done if he stayed. Slapped on another Assassin's Creed DLC, sell some gun skins for Rainbow Six Siege. Maybe, if he was really lucky, he could have gotten assigned to Ubisoft's NFT strategy game. Wouldn't that have been exciting?
The thing is, right, I love Siege. The thing is, I would argue against it, and what he's saying about like storyline and games in general apply to Siege. But the thing is, Siege is so unique as a game. It's like, I don't know how to feel about Siege though. Siege is arguably the sweatiest game ever made. And with the recent updates that it's getting like massive rework on the game, it's going to become even sweatier. But it's such a unique experience. I don't think there is a competitive equivalent for Siege out there right now, which gives it a market monopoly on that very specific type of game. You can make the argument, it's like maybe CS:GO. No, it's or even what's the game again? Valorant. And it's like I wouldn't put like Valorant is taking Siege aspects and putting it in like a CS:GO lobby, but Siege is still different. It's the whole operator mechanic and how they counter, and then you can basically have infinite versions and setups. It's just mind-boggling. I think Siege is a whole different beast, but the storyline for Siege could use some work. I do agree on that. Absolutely.
Expedition 33 would have been strangled
Oh my god, a Siege based on like this environment would go crazy though.
Second it was pitched. Too risky, too slow, too difficult to monetize. Ubisoft would have never made a game like this.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And here's the sick part. I already know what's coming next. History is going to repeat itself like it always does. A small studio does something extraordinary. Players fall in love with it. In response to that, these publishers start staring at spreadsheets, baffled by the game's success, try to imitate it. They copy the aesthetics. They miss the soul. They throw $300 million at a knockoff and then cry on their earnings call about how players, their expectations have changed.
The thing is, right, this isn't even as much of a history as this is basically a walking plot line. Like, this was eventually going to happen. Word for word, he's not
they
wrong.
only started out with 8 developers back in 2021.
Damn.
In an old interview that I had found, Broche was talking about how they only had 8 people and they were hoping to reach 15. That was the dream. You can still find their early art from back then. Rough, imperfect, they had nothing. And in under 4 years, that scrappy team that then grew up to over 30 developers delivered Expedition 33, a game that looks and feels like it belongs with the biggest and most expensive productions in the world. How does that make any sense? Meanwhile, we have the entire industry that has been lighting billions of dollars on fire and is still somehow making worse games. Sandfall did what the AAA industry insists is impossible. They built a masterpiece. They didn't spend $400 million to make it. They didn't need some bloated marketing campaign. They didn't need 500 people. They didn't even need to sell it for $70. And it worked. Because when you build something with love, with focus, with intent, players notice. We can feel it. Meanwhile, the AAA industry is still crying about ballooning development costs, pretending that they don't know why they're drowning, creating a constant state of entropy in which they are the ones that are increasing costs while players are being demanded to follow their poor business decisions. Nobody told you to staff 800 people to make the next Fortnite. Nobody told you to waste $400 million on another cinematic action RPG. Nobody said that you couldn't try making something new or something fresh. Nobody said you have to keep chasing somebody else's success rather than their ambition. Nobody forced you to bolt on battle passes, shop tabs, microtransactions, and deluxe editions onto every single thing that you release. You did that. You chose that.
And my man could have spoken in any language. He chose facts. He's right. Like, you got battle passes, you got companies putting like more than 1,000 people like into different games that they want to develop. It's like, you can't replace passion. You can't replace creativity. And I think at the end of the day, gaming remains a creative artwork, and it's a creative space. And I think unless they're truly qualified creative people leading companies and that still hold true to what they think should be good quality games, and as long as that leadership remains gaming focused and not spreadsheet based, like MBA oriented people with like really different backgrounds, it's not going to work. You need people who make games to lead companies that make games. It is what it is.
See studios like Sandfall.
This is literally the Boeing argument of, you really want an aeronautical engineer to lead Boeing, not someone with an MBA or finance background. It is what it is.
Lean and relentless, deliver something as bold and as unforgettable as Expedition 33, it makes one thing painfully clear. The titans of this industry aren't untouchable anymore. They're bloated, slow, and creatively paralyzed. They have built these massive infrastructures filled with redundant management layers, bloated headcounts, and endless committees, and the end result is a process that is so convoluted that making anything truly original or valuable becomes almost impossible.
And I think it's... The sad thing is, thinking about it, it is inevitable that it happens to every company. I think it's you could put your best effort to slow down its effect, but it is an inevitability, unfortunately. I think there are not many companies that have been, there are few exceptions, I think. But the reality is, if you have a company that slowly builds great games, and as that company grows in size, makes more money, and the scope of those games increase, you eventually have to hire managers, hire more people that work, and then you want to start building in systems and structures in place that standardize these processes. So you get to evaluate everyone's performance, you start going through the process of evaluation criteria, right? And then you start building up a firm as a multi-billion-dollar organization, right? But in the process of you building these systems and checks in place to kind of make sure everything runs well, in the process of you doing that, you lose the magic of having small groups of people who are tightly integrated and able to work on the projects with an understanding what each other wants. The bigger the company becomes, you're going to have more of a cultural problem of having different teams and different like org structures trying to understand each other, and then they just might not even be able to like the crosstalk between them might be so complicated that you need more and more and more managers to try and handle bigger teams. It basically becomes a house of cards that can't sustain itself and then crashes. It's just not sustainable, unfortunately.
The games take
it's a consistent pattern that is repeated on every major company. Like there is a trade-off of productivity and creativity in the pursuit of being a bigger company. And I think the management they have has to make a call on how much of each could they lose while still retaining what's true to be like the soul of the company, right? Because once they lose the focus on why the company exists, is when that company falls apart. Boeing is an incredible case study in this, in my opinion, because it has nothing to do with gaming as much as it has to do with everything about the spirit of the company. Because if the leadership were intent on doing all the right things, you wouldn't be facing the problems you have today. Same thing with gaming.
To make, cost too much, and play it far too safe. At this scale, they can't afford to take risks. They can't afford failure. And when you can't afford failure, you're not experimenting anymore. You stop pushing boundaries. You stop creating. You start chasing, copying, playing defense. And eventually, you build a studio that has all the money in the world, but doesn't have any soul left to build anything.
Yep.
I genuinely think that this industry has just grown past the need for these monolithic publishers and developers. What used to be an advantage, size, stability, brand power, is now the very thing that's holding these guys back. The future isn't being shaped by these corporate giants anymore with these 1,000 person development teams and millions, hundreds of millions of dollar marketing campaigns. It's being built by studios that can still move quickly. They can take creative risks that don't need to pass every idea through 6 layers of executive sign-off just to be able to get a change to a character's dialogue. And I think
the thing is, where bureaucracy kills, bro. It is one of those things where there is nothing more potent or capable in killing the creative process or the idea and will of someone as passing through 100 layers of bureaucracy. It is what it is. Sometimes the thinnest management layers taking some of the most important decisions and having real-time communication with people that matter, people that actually make the actual product or make the actual good decisions matter most. And I think keeping teams lean like this is kind of the secret sauce in success, because now it's no longer about one or the other can pass blame. It's like everyone tries making the best decision that they can. And if someone screws up, yes, it's like the whole Captain America argument of we win together too. If we lose together too. But in this tightly integrated space, you can't afford failure. And if you fail, you're going to be your harshest critic because you realize you'll be letting people down. So you work even harder. That's tough.
That's the shift that we're starting to see with a lot of these closures and a lot of these layoffs.
Absolutely.
It's not just a collapse, but a reformation of sorts. These mass layoffs, as awful as they are for the people that are involved, it's also a turning point, because when those studios implode, they don't just disappear, they scatter, they break apart, and what's left behind is raw talent, developers that still want to make something meaningful.
I feel like that's part of the answer. You got to understand, when big companies fall apart, yes, you are losing talent. You're also losing a lot of middle management and things that have caused the problems in the first place that are now going to go out into other companies and going to start creating problems there. I don't know if that's a popular opinion, but I've seen it in very unique or niche cases where that's happened, where like a small company absorbs another company and then suddenly has all the problems of the old company. I was like, gee, I wonder where they got all those problems from. It's just... because I'm not gonna lie, if you've business studies has been one of those cool things where you read up on case studies in business, and it's always unique seeing how certain things or certain ideas and cultures percolate through different companies, and those symptoms don't become apparent years later when the damage is done.
Who still have ideas that they want to bring to life. Expedition 33 is what happens when those people finally get a chance. We are entering into a new phase for this industry, not because the major players planned for it, but because they couldn't stop it from happening. They failed to value their own developers. They failed to respect their audiences. They failed to protect the creative spark that built the industry. And now, one way or another, they're the ones that are getting left behind. And frankly, it couldn't happen to a better person. I found a couple of interviews from the CEO where he was talking about how essentially the AAA structure is so convoluted and creatively suffocating that it's really difficult to be able to get anything done. But in one of his interviews, he was talking about how much of a challenge it is to be able to go indie in the first place, because a lot of people have to take on a lot of different roles when you're as small as they are. You have a lot of people that become generalists rather than specialists.
This is true, and I can feel that in my soul because I've been a part of a small company before. It is true because when you're part of a bigger corporation, a bigger organization, I think this is something I can speak in general from experience that I've had. The bigger the company you have, you are able to handle specialists, people who are very specialized in doing very specific tasks and things. They're paid well, but they do that one specific thing very well. But when you're in a really small team where you can't afford specialists, you have individual people taking on multiple roles. So you understand that they take up the role of the generalist. They can't really put their mind into one item when they're trying to deal with like 6-7 different items at the same time. Their skills are more oriented towards generally running things and making sure things don't fall apart pretty quickly. So I can understand that perspective. As the team grows, you get to afford to have certain people do very specific things. But as long as you're a small team, the stakes are higher and the workload shoots up to the roof, 100%.
Because you just don't have access to that kind of talent, or at least that much talent. But in that, you become creatively focused. The vision stays intact. It's very clear because it's only being handled by just a handful of people.
Right. And you also have a stricter control of the culture you get to have. Of course, there are a lot of advantages to being a lean team. A lot.
And in that, creativity can thrive. And the budget stays low.
Yeah.
Those things are really important.
Yeah.
So whatever you dream of whatever the game is supposed to be, stays clear the entire time because you're not having to go through 500 people to be able.
Unironically, I don't think this is a popular opinion, but I think the best thing that Sandfall could do for themselves right now, and I don't know if this is the right way of putting it, but apart from taking in very specific people they need for game development, keeping their team small might be their best move in the long run. I think so.
To make something. It's really
I don't think that's going to happen, but
when one person has an idea and has to communicate it to 500 people instead of 8 or 30, right? These AAA publishers have tied themselves to copy-paste IP, and they've continued to grow larger and larger in scale year over year, and it's all been for nothing because they keep raising the floor without raising the ceiling, and eventually they're just going to get crushed.
True.
That's why we're seeing a lot of the issues that we see today. I can't imagine it feels great to worry about layoffs and studio closures and earnings calls while you're watching indie developers run circles around you, free of expectations, creatively free, being able to do whatever they want, free of any type of constraint, free of these insane budgets. Expedition 33 just got greenlit for its own movie. Made by
I'm not going to lie. I didn't know about that. That sounds insane.
the same people that made the Sonic movie.
Ooh.
Meanwhile, EA...
I don't know if that's a good thing, actually. I'm actually kind of 50-50 on that one. I actually don't know.
Just laid off 400 people. It's a lot of barbs.
Because here's the thing, right? You know what I really think? I don't know if it would have ever been possible. If Expedition 33 goes to Fortiche and makes an anime adaptation of the game they released, it would probably melt the internet, in my opinion. But I think I can see why a live action adaptation of the movie is also okay. Sure, why not?
Expedition 33.
Because I'm really curious, how are they going to even try getting some of the visuals down? Like, there's certain visuals in the game that I don't... How would you translate that into... I'm curious to see what they're going to pull off, though. There's certain things I don't... Like, cosmic horror vibes, right? And that dude...
So...
We'll see what happens. I will cross the bridge when we get there. Right?
Much heart. It really does.
It really
you
does.
can genuinely feel that these developers threw everything they had into this game. And seeing as this is their first game that they made, I cannot wait to see what these guys are going to do after. I haven't finished the game yet. I'm going to be getting to that after I finish this
video. I've watched the entire gameplay. In fact, all the secret bosses as well. So I've seen... For what's been revealed so far, I think I've seen everything there is on the game.
I think I need to take a break one of these weeks. Maybe not try to release 2 videos. Maybe just do 1 instead or something like that. But, you know, we get a lot of good games. We get some great ones. But every once in a while, we get one of those games that just knocks you off your seat. It just takes your breath away. And I've had a lot of breathless moments when I've been playing Expedition 33. Yeah. And it's great to see these developers get the recognition.
Like it's hard to say that they're games that take your breath away, but this is a very good example of a game that's like, there are some scenes in this game that are breathtaking.
They deserve, and also see their work rewarded. And I think they're going to continue to be rewarded, to be honest with you. We're going to be seeing them at the Game Awards. I'm going to tell you that right now. Probably even win Game of the Year. Unless Grand Theft Auto wins by default.
GTA 6 is coming out in 2026 right now, isn't it?
Totally see this industry doing that, sadly. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, comment.
You know what? That's a damn good video. And I'm actually glad I watched it. Because I think Expedition 33 is just a game that keeps on giving. And you already have some of the bigger creators in the gaming space already making videos, like long series playthroughs about it. So I'm really curious when they get through certain sections of the game. In my personal opinion, Act 2 ending at least. So there are certain moments in the game that really, make you realize the game isn't really your best friend as much as it's trying to guide you a certain way and then tell you, you really shouldn't have done that. It's just, you should have thought for yourself when you did that. But you know what? I think I've yapped long enough. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe. And I'll catch you beautiful bastards in the next one. Peace. Take care. Nice.